So all that said, in summary of the WRX versus STI comparison, which of these cars is truly better? Hey everyone, this is Zach with 8020 Automotive, here today with a video on the Subaru WRX versus WRX STI, which is better. Both the Subaru WRX and WRX STI instantly became staples in the US JDM scene upon their arrival in 2002 for the WRX and 2004 for the WRX STI. Overall, this platform, the Impreza and WRX chassis, is one of the most successful rally chassis of all time. So both of these cars have great racing and rally pedigree and heritage. Now the STI is going to be the much more performance-oriented vehicle between the two and is equipped with things like a more powerful engine, stiffer springs, larger brakes, etc. That's not to say the WRX is a slouch by any means. It's still a great performance car and offers a lot, especially when it comes to daily driving. Both the STI and WRX are phenomenal cars, and really when it comes to the comparison and deciding which one is right for you, it often boils down to whether or not the performance increase for the STI is in fact worth the increased cost and potentially a little bit of sacrifices when it comes to daily driving. So with that said, let's go ahead and jump into the bulk of the conversation, starting off with WRX versus STI engines. In the United States market, the STI actually used the same engine throughout its entire run from 2004 until 2021. It was powered by the 2.5-liter EJ257 engine, delivering anywhere from 300 to 340 horsepower and 290 to 330 foot-pounds of torque. The WRX, on the other hand, has always had different engines, but they both share the same basic turbocharged boxer 4-cylinder engine design. So with that said, the WRX, when it comes to engine options, there are quite a few more. Starting off in 2002 with the introduction to the US markets, the WRX was powered by the EJ205, a 2-liter turbocharged engine, and that remained in production through model year 2005. That was followed with the EJ255, which remained from 2006 until 2014 and was a 2.5-liter engine. From that, in 2015, Subaru opted to change it up from the EJ series engine and actually put the FA20F into the WRX from 2015 through model year 2021, and that was ultimately replaced by the 2.4-liter FA24F engine, which has been in use from 2022 until the present day. That engine delivers up to 271 horsepower and 258 foot-pounds of torque. So even that original STI made more power than the newest WRX models. Looking at overall performance and comparing that with these two vehicles, again, the differences between the STI and WRX are a lot more than just the engines, but there are also a number of components to help support that additional power and also help deliver those higher levels of performance when it comes to things like rally racing, track use, any kind of inclement weather conditions, etc. So moving into the specifics there, starting with suspension, the STI has always had more aggressively tuned suspension, specifically focused for, again, things like rally racing, track use, etc. So it is going to be a stiffer, more aggressive setup that isn't going to be quite as comfortable as the WRX for just standard daily driving. And looking at brakes, the Subaru WRX has rather standard brakes that aren't bad brakes, pretty standard for any kind of passenger sedan. On the other hand, the STI uses 6-piston Brembo brakes in the front and 2-piston Brembo brakes in the rear. They're also going to be a little bit larger, so they are going to offer a significant performance advantage in situations where you really need that kind of stopping power. And then another notable difference is the differential on the STI. The STI uses an advanced central differential that's really just going to offer more overall control and drivability. The STI is really just developed to be the higher performance car that's going to better handle very spirited, aggressive driving. And none of that is to say the WRX is bad by any means in these situations. It's still a great car, still delivers great power, great performance, great capability. It's just not going to offer it to quite the same degree and level as the STI. Moving on to the next big topic, we have price. It's a little challenging to look look at prices now, since obviously the STI is no longer in production. However, if you go back to the past and look at the MSRP difference between the WRX and STI, the STI tended to carry an MSRP roughly $10,000 higher, and that difference in price mostly remains true in the used market as well. Depending on the specifics, of course, you can also find a better deal potentially on one or a worse deal on the other. Ultimately, an STI in the used market is still going to be roughly $7,000 to $10,000 more expensive than the base WRX models, and so that can be a pretty significant difference in price, especially looking at something like a 2020 Subaru WRX. You can get one of those with lower mileage for about the same price as you'd be picking up a 2015 or 2016 STI, and that's really one of the biggest benefits to the WRX is the fact that it can still be a great daily driver and still a very fun performance car without having to spend that extra money to get yourself into an STI. Moving on to a couple final quick topics to discuss here. Looking at fuel economy, the WRX is going to have the advantage when it comes to fuel economy. So again, that kind of ties into the fact that the WRX is a great daily driver, maybe more suited for those who aren't really looking for a top tier high-end performance car. Looking at maintenance, similar concept here. The WRX is going to be a little bit cheaper to maintain. Using the brakes that I talked about earlier, that's a great example. The STI brakes are simply going to be bigger and more expensive to replace, and so when it comes to maintenance, there can be a slight advantage to the WRX in being a little bit cheaper. And then finally, looking at reliability, to be honest, this is really a toss-up. Neither one of them are going to be the most reliable cars or engines around. However, they can offer good reliability with good maintenance and proper care. That said, just be careful with basic bolt-ons because these engines are known to have some internal issues and failures, even just with tuning and simple modifications. So something to be aware of there if you are looking to pick one of these up and start tuning and modifying it. But again, overall reliability is a little bit of a wash and really just comes down to a case-by-case basis for these vehicles. So all that said, in summary of the WRX versus STI comparison, which of these cars is truly better? If you want the ultimate performance car and are willing to make some sacrifices such as spending more on the vehicle and maybe having a little less comfort for daily driving, then the STI is likely going to be the better bet for you. However, if you want something that is still a fun, sporty vehicle, but you don't need anything overkill and want some of those conveniences and comforts of a more standard daily driver, then the WRX might be the better pickup for you. You can get something a little bit newer for a similar price, or you can even save money if you're looking at a certain year or mileage range. You can pick something up cheaper just getting into a base WRX. So definitely some advantages for the WRX being the cheaper car, one that's generally going to be a little bit less expensive to maintain and deliver better fuel economy and more comfort for daily driving. So again, there isn't one answer fits all here. It really comes down to personal preference. And if you're really unsure of whether or not you want that extra performance, see if you can find two locally, test drive both the WRX and STI, and see which one really feels right for you. Anyway, guys, that wraps up our video for today. If you appreciated the content, please hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and stay tuned for more in the future. Thanks, everyone.